to students. The same applies to this one as well. It will also reduce the same thing. No, he's gotta go. They are not objectives. Whenever you read a sentence, think about the how. Then that would help you form a correct objective. Steven, you had a question?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Sir, please, with the objectives, are we also supposed to use these bullet stuffs, or it should also be in a paragraph form?
Where were you when I was commenting on that? I said yes, objectives are supposed to be bulleted.
Okay, all right, sir. All right.
It was the DIT guys that asked the question. Shrek and Fiona. What an interesting character, huh? Anyways. So yeah, so these are not objectives. Whenever you start writing objective and you realize that it doesn't state how, then get rid of it. Are we good?
Yeah, all right, sir.
Yeah, get rid of it. Tell us the how part. The how part is what becomes the objective. Do not talk about the benefits in objectives. No. If you don't understand what an objective is, just Google it. Go to a dictionary online and look up the word objectives. You will notice they will say the same thing as the actionable processes that needs to be undertaken, or measures that needs to be undertaken to address something, to accomplish something, which is the aim. So if you start talking about the benefits, then it doesn't become an objective anymore. So all of this defiles the definition of what an objective is. Are we good, guys?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because if you look at the definition of objective, these doesn't fall underneath it. These are completely off. Sometimes just use a dictionary to help you out. Okay?
Right.
Moving on. The same thing. This application will provide the same thing again. See, will provide sessions for everyone. How does it provide the session? Becomes the objective. It will reduce the stress. Once again, how? Hey, who is that? Samuel. If you don't have anything to say, please do not turn your mics on.
Okay, sir. I'm sorry, sir.
Okay, so again, this application will provide, how does it provide session? That should become the objective, the how part. So this is not an objective. Same applies to all of this over here. So all of that to this point here are complete. No, they're not considered objectives because they don't tell us how, or over here they tell us about the benefit instead. It will reduce the same thing. How would it reduce it becomes objective? It will also provide, so basically right up from here all the way down are pure non-objectives. So this gotta go. So that means he has to go back and figure out what the real objectives are. I hope this is group 4. Group 4, are they here? This is Vincent and Solomon. Are they here? Vincent, are you here? Solomon, are you here? You're not online. I met Solomon this afternoon on campus. We actually chat for a little bit. He's a staff at GTUC pursuing his BIT, his degree. We had some chats. I was hoping probably be online as well, so at least he can take some pointers about on their document that I'm trying to point out. So when they go back, they can correct some of these mistakes. But obviously they're not here, so I don't know. Maybe they get a recordings, huh? Now this same applies to all of you. Most of you the same thing. You guys the same thing you guys are doing. You telling us the solutions or the benefits instead of the how part. And that's why I keep stressing on that. Whenever you start writing and you realize that you are not telling us how, make sure you get rid of it. It means that is not an objective. Start thinking about the how part. Then you start forming correct objectives. And like I said, if you don't understand the word objective, just pick a dictionary and Google it. And it will tell you what an objective is. So that will probably help you with form better objectives. It doesn't include benefits. No, it's all about the actionable processes. What you have to do, the things you need to do to help you accomplish your aim becomes the objective. Are we good? And for the most part, it starts with to something, to create something, to examine something, to survey something, to design something, to manage something, to, actually, no, not to, you can't use to manage because it doesn't tell you. It's mostly create, implement, design, investigate, survey. Those integrate. There you go. See, that's what I'm talking about. Those are the actionable words or processes. Yeah, to integrate. To execute. Yeah, those are the actionable words. Because they tell us how. I'm going to integrate a database with another database to give me so and so, to make so and so possible. That is an objective. But it's telling us how now. Are we good? But if you start writing sentences like this will enable, this would also prevent, this application will provide, this will reduce. No, you're not telling us how. So in that sense, you don't have an objective. Okay? And your objective is supposed to be at least 5 objectives. You're supposed to indicate at least 5 bulleted point objectives. That will tell us how you're going to accomplish your aim. Okay, guys? So these are all not relevant. Okay, so he said for the lecturer's part, design application that would enable lecturers communicate. How do you design application to allow lecturers to communicate? So you're going to build an application that has got maybe an elaborate front end to help with lecturers' communication with students on various courses and other issues. That should form the objective. Create a platform where lecturers can also to create a platform. There you go. That's an objective. To create a platform where lecturers, I think you want to incorporate a bit of something, some process within that. So to create an integrated platform with various modules that would assist with course information sharing or course material information sharing, as well as assignments and what have you. Yeah, that would form the objective. So I'm getting 1, 2, and 3 objectives over here. These are all non-objectives. So this needs to go. And then you can just put these together. There's no need to tell me about the students. No, there's no need to break some of these things down. Just get 5 strong bulleted points that tells us how you want to accomplish your aim to become your objectives. Okay. Significance of study. So this is where you talk about the various stakeholders that are going to benefit from your system's implementation. So one of them happens to be the organization that you build in the, or they're going to be the beneficiary, the sole beneficiary of the system. In this case, GTUC. So organization is GTUC. They're the one going to benefit, where students and lecturers forms a key stakeholders underneath it. Okay, so that's one. So just elaborate on that. So when it comes to organization, talk about how it would benefit. The system would benefit the or would be of significance to the organization with some of the key stakeholders stated within them. So students, how would this application benefit the students? Lecturers, how would it benefit them? Put them in paragraph and then you're done. You know? So that should take care of your organization. The second stakeholder or main stakeholder is academia. And this is where you talk about how maybe this research or this development can be used by other students as a reference point to build on, or when it comes to their final year project, or can also serve as a reference point for them to build future applications or future references off on when it comes to their final year projects. So that's how it would benefit academia, because academia is all about adding to the body of knowledge. So try to basically break down or elaborate how academia benefits from this system implementation. Okay. The third key stakeholder or entity that would have significant reference to your application or to your system is government. Is government going to be able to generate some revenue from this if it's actually implemented? Would it assist government with maybe other processes, like you talked about students' loan? So he's done a pretty good job trying to elaborate on some of these ones, which I like. You know, talk about how, so with government, our students will apply, will Apple, so this is supposed to be apply, right? Watch out for some of the typos as well. You know, when you type in, make sure before you forward the message back to me, you and your partner have gone through it maybe 2 or 3 times and correct some of the errors, some of the typos, some of the grammars before you forward it to me. Okay? But if you just jumbled up stuff for me to read, Masa, I don't have time for that too. Some of them I remember like, Jesus Christ, did you guys actually read through the document before forwarding to me? It's like you just jumbled up junk and then you just say, Masa, go read it. Mimical radio nonsense. Guys, read through your stuff first before you forward it to me. Don't dump junk for me. I don't want to read your junk. Structure it nicely. And I also keep saying, I prefer when documents are justified instead. I'm not a huge fan of this tab paragraph and thing that we use at whatchamacallit, the within Ghana write-up documentations. I'm not a huge fan. I prefer to justify it, you know, so like all this, just justify it. So you take a tab off, justify it. Take a tab off, justify it nicely, justify it. Take a tab off. So this is a paragraph, justify it. I like when things are justified than that whole putting tab paragraph in document. I mean, it's allowed, you know, but I prefer if you go through some of the literatures online, if you Google some of the literatures that I showed you, you'll notice that most of the documents are all justified. Have you noticed that, guys? Have you noticed that?
Yes, sir.
Most of the literature reviews that you guys are downloading and going through, you notice that they justify them. The authors or the writers of those documents, they justify the documents. It's one of the most standardized way to put your documents in a much more structured way. But you can also go with the paragraph, the tabbing. Yeah, it's also acceptable. Like I said, I just prefer it's justified. It looks much better to me. Anyways, whatever you go with, just make sure it's structured properly. It's nicely organized. That's all. So the three key stakeholders within your write-ups are organization when it comes to significance of study. Our organization, which is the key stakeholder, the users of the system, academia, and then government. And you just have to elaborate on them, how the system will benefit all these three key stakeholders. Okay? And then the scope of study. So the scope should tell us more or less the boundary that a system would cover. Every system has got a boundary. There's no system written to be infinite. That means you can do infinite stuff. Every application is finite. Even if you take your Facebook app, it's limited to what it can do. It has a scope. It obviously can start talking about issues that has nothing to do with Facebook's policies or Facebook's implementation or design model, because there's always a scope. So tell us the scope of your system as well. Okay, so that's where the scope of study is. There has to be a boundary line. So you can say the system is going to comprise of so and so and built to accommodate maybe only GTC environment. Like for instance, when Facebook first the guy Mark Zuckerberg first designed it when he was in Harvard, it was mostly within Harvard University or Harvard campus. It was until students start spreading the news about the applications benefits to other universities outside Harvard that he realized that this was actually a potential application that could change the game. So what did he do? He expanded the range or the scope to cover practically every other university, as well as just the average, user like you and me today, social life in general. Okay, so this is where you talk about that. Talk about the scope, the range that you think your application is going to be operating within. So what he says, since the project is to be used solely by departments within the this is an old name. So it will be within a GCTU. The application will be built using how processes are handled. To the English, the application will be built using how processes are handled in its department of information. To the English, guys. You catching on, guys?
Yes, sir.
So you notice that the English is not adding up, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not adding up. So obviously, like write-ups. That's what I'm saying. Take your time. Most of you are the BITs. You are partners. You are two of you. Each one should read a document. So when one person writes a whole page or a whole heading or whatever, give it to the other partner to also read through and make some corrections here and there. Read proof it first before you say, okay, I think we got some of the minor, adjustments with the expressions, with the comprehensions, with the sentences, or with the typos sorted out before you forward it to the supervisor to go through. So now you have no idea what exactly they want to say here. Now I have to be a mind reader, try to figure exactly what they're trying to say. And I'm not a mind reader. I can't figure exactly what at all they're trying to put across. But my guess is they're trying to say that the scope of study, since it's solely for GTUC department usage, the application will be built to address processes that are handled within the departments of the Faculty of Computer Information Studies. Yes, so that's what he's trying to say, you know. So that's, a little. I would have loved for him to go a bit further to elaborate more about the scope, talk about the uh, some of the uh, some of the key processes that or modules that application will cover, and things that you don't expect it to cover. Like for instance, since it's going to be a messaging app, you don't expect it to be handling maybe news or blogs or questions that relate or course material relates to either past questions or what. I don't know if it was part of the objectives or not, but you have to basically indicate the range or the scope within which application is supposed to run. So this guide chart, usually when you indicate clearly what your scope is, when it comes to grading or defense, we're not going to be asking you questions beyond the scope. So this helps us basically limit our questions when it comes to defense or when it comes to your grading on your project. So we know that I can't be asking with this application, I can't be asking you things that are beyond the scope, and I can't grade you on things that are beyond the scope. So you state out clearly what the scope is, and then we elect the supervisors or the panel will work within that. Okay, so that's the whole essence of the scope, is to guide the or to help the supervisors and the panel of judges to be able to limit their questions or expectations from your report. And there's no need to state scope anymore. Now you're supposed to just limitation because you already got the scope at the top. So limitations are some of the challenges that you envisage come across within your application design or within your project. That's where you state them out. Like I said, try as much as possible to limit bullet points. I would prefer you talk about paragraphs, how try to say this or say all of this in paragraph forms instead. Okay? Try as much as possible to avoid bullet points in your write-up, bottom line. Minimize the bullet points. Okay, guys? Write sentences and put them in paragraphs. That would be that should be your focus. That's your aim when it comes to your write-up. Limit bullet points, write more English, express yourself. Okay? Just put your arguments in paragraph forms, Great. So that would basically cap it off for your chapter 1. Now, when you go to chapter 2, this is where you start more elaboration on your problem statement and then your objectives. So your entire chapter 2 should tell us more literatures, more research about the problems that you indicated in your chapter 1 that apparently are so bugging or so relevant that you want to solve them or such a hindrance within the university community that you want to solve. And because you can't just express yourself, you can't just say it as a word of mouth from you, they need you to use references from other sources to back up your argument. So for instance, within the problem statement, we identified only what, was it about two? Uh, we identified about two, right? There was poor communication, uh, poor communication within the university. That's one. And then the other one was poor interactivity. So those are the two main problems that was basically indicated over here. So when you come to chapter 2, you have to start talking more about those two problem statements. So now do the math. You only have two problem statements. The question is, how do you write 15 to 18 pages on that? You can't do that, right? I mean, it doesn't seem to be it's going to be possible. And that's where you start seeing students writing all kinds of all kinds of nonsense that have got nothing to do with the problem statements. Okay, so let us go through his problems, his chapter 2. So over here, if I'm the supervisor, what I'm expecting to see is what? More about more on the fact that communication is very, very poor within a university setting like GTUC, right? So I'm expecting to see. Or there's lack of interactivity. Okay, so those are the two things I'm expecting to be reading about in your chapter 2. And let's go through his chapter 2 and see. And see what we start going through. Okay, so it says for the year now, for some years now, or for years now, the most reliable way of building and maintaining relations among individuals was through direct contact and communications. This method was highly effective, yet see the English? Changes in the modern world does not, this is an English, huh? Changes in the modern world does not allow for constant direct human dealings. The focus therefore shifted to building technologies that would improve. This needs to be sorted out. This grammar here needs to be sorted out, or this sentence needs to be sorted out. Because I can't figure exactly what is going on. So, Solo, are you guys here? Have you joined yet? Solo and Vincent, have you joined yet? They're still not up here, right? Okay, they're probably just sleeping.
They are not in it.
Yeah, they're probably enjoying their Friday nights. Yeah, they probably at the club or at the bar or the pub, right? Enjoying some beer with their girlfriends. Meanwhile, they have crap that needs to be sorted out. Anyways, so this needs to be sorted out. The focus therefore shifted to developing technologies that would improve communication over a long distance. This led to the attention and development. This led to attention. This led to the attention and development of video and audio technologies. According to, that's a good reference. That's a good reference right there. According to so and so, privacy concerns, implementations, difficulties, cost, and lack of support for core user tasks are reasons for non-adoption of technologies focused on audio and video for information, education, irrespective of the English is not flowing very well. So privacy concerns, implementation difficulties, cost, and lack of support for core user tasks are reasons for the non-adoption and Non-adaptive technologies focused on audio and video for informal education, irrespective of the successes